The last chapter of Genesis can feel like the story ends on a cliffhanger, as if the story is not over. The story ends with the Israelites in Egypt, not in Canaan. But in Joseph's last words, he assures the Israelites that God will come to them. Cliffhangers feel like a tease, an abrupt end to make you watch or read whatever comes next. But Genesis is not ending this way to tease us. It ends because it is true to its name, beginning. This amazing book contains the beginning of creation, humanity, death, cities, families, and also the beginning of a nation marked by God's presence. And true to its name, Genesis ends with reminding us that this was all just the beginning of the story of God, where God will restore all things to his intended good and beautiful purpose. Though it ends with a cliffhanger, there is some closure, primarily in the themes of the book. These themes were introduced in Genesis 1 and 2 through 4 primary questions. The first question was this: who is God? Essentially saying that God is the one who created all things and is sovereign over all things. The second question was, what is God's character? Namely saying that he's generous and just and near. The third question is, who are we? And we are his image bearers, near to God. And the fourth question is, what is our purpose? And that was to participate in God's rule through loving God and stewarding creation. But between Genesis 3 and 11, these truths got distorted. Humans forgot who we were, and in the process, didn't see God clearly. This became most evident in people killing other people, Cain killing Abel, bloodshed spreading across the world, Simeon and Levi tricking an entire city and killing them. But in the Joseph story, we see what it looks like for a person to know God truly. Joseph becomes a picture of what it looks like for God's people to choose him over sin, to choose good over evil. So for example, on the question of who is God, Joseph knows that God is the one who is above famines and the chaos and the evil in the world. We know that he knows God's character, as Joseph reflects that character by knowing that God is near to him in the midst of his own suffering. He knows who we are. Joseph reflects God's image by generously forgiving his brothers in chapter 50. And on the fourth question, what is our purpose? Joseph seems to understand that his life from pit to palace was for the sake of participating in God's rule, stewarding creation in order to serve his family. So yes, Genesis ends on a cliffhanger, but it doesn't leave us hanging, right? It doesn't leave us hanging on how God truly was and is restoring his creation back to his goodness. You see, as new creations, we are invited to be like Joseph as he was faithful with his small. We are invited to be like Esau, who embraced his brother. We are invited to be like Hagar, who recognized that God is the one who sees our affliction. We are invited to be like Abel and Noah and Abraham, who worshiped God and walked with him. We are invited to not only know we are God's image bearers, but to be God's image bearers, to reflect him where we are. And being who we were made to be, we find ourselves testifying about the true image of the invisible God, Jesus, the Messiah. And the catastrophe of sin and death is met with the most beautiful good news of Christ's victory over them. This eucatastrophe assures that though all of creation has been impacted by death, behold, God is making all things new.